Hey everyone, sorry about that. Technical difficulties yet again. The
Just a
uh,
wee little bit.
the enemy strikes again. Guess what?
My
He
God.
he he strikes right on time every time.
He wants to,
so
he knows how awesome this podcast can be, so
so
he doesn't want us to get us ourselves out. He doesn't want everybody to be glad trads. He'd rather us be mad trads.
it's true. Hope you like that little countdown. Just a little peaceful thing to remind us of what the outside world looks like. um, Welcome to episode 2 of the Glad Trad podcast, live from quarantine. I'm Rodolfo Carlos.
And I am Jordan Pacheco. Thank you all so much for joining us out there in dreamland, as Rudy likes to say.
I have a dream job, besides being a baker, of course, of being a shock lock radio DJ. So I can
Are,
just
you, are you saying shock lock or chakra? Do you want to say something? Do you want to admit something to
no,
everybody?
no, I didn't say chakra.
Ooh, ooh, sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm because I'm so young. What's a shock lock? Shock
A
lock.
shock lock?
Shock lock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a shock lock DJ is like the kind of DJ that has the sounds queued up. So
Oh,
somebody's
like a.
interviewing, we'll say something and it'll be like boing, like that kind of
So
thing.
what I'm hearing is that you want to be the sound guy from Jerry Springer.
Yes, yes. I haven't
Yeah.
actually watched that, but I wasn't
Uh,
aware that there was a sound effect person, but
that was one of the shows that I wasn't allowed to watch as a kid, and I didn't for the most part. But YouTube is a wonderful thing, and I have definitely seen some fights. And Jerry, I'm that kind of crud.
speaking of fights, Jordan and I are wearing our prison blues because we're quarantined at home.
That's right. I got a feeling on the blue. Yeah, that's right. Now that California is on, they say we're on lockdown until the 15th. If the nation opens up at on May 1st, I think that's going to be hard to enforce. But we're just prepping ourselves. We're actually learning chain gang songs right now, like the opening of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou."
I love that movie. It's a great film.
Excellent. You know what's nice is for me, like okay, hang on. This is why I wanted to bring it up. So, because I recently watched 1917, and I watched that, and that's DP by Roger Deakins, and so is "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou." So Deakins has essentially been my childhood inspiration for why I'm a cinematographer now.
Yeah, I could see that. That's
Kind of cool.
it's a beautifully shot film. The story is fun. The music is excellent. I think it's one of the best
So
soundtracks
wonderful.
that's
Yeah,
uh, that's ever been made for
yeah.
a movie. But
By the way, happy Easter to everybody. I think that should be a first thing we should get off right off the bat.
yes, happy Easter, everybody. He is risen.
Christus
Hallelujah.
Resurrexit. Hallelujah.
Have you been doing the instead of the Angelus? Have you been singing the Regina Coeli at 12?
I have not, but guess who's gonna start doing that
That's good.
properly?
It's
This
beautiful.
guy.
My roommate Johan
Yeah.
is he's really on. He's punctual with the Angelus, so he'll knock on my door and tell me, "All right, it's time." So it's good. It's good.
Shout out to our favorite Assyrian,
Everybody
Jan,
needs
who
a
is
friend like that.
actually he's been serving. He was serving for Holy Week, and that included the Easter Triduum. So that was a really really exciting thing to see because he's gone from low mass serving to the high masses now, and it's all been great. So it's
Yep.
really inspirational. Have you ever thought about being an altar server, Rudy? Like in the Latin Rite?
Fun fact: I used to be an altar server
Same here.
at the
Same
Novus
here.
Ordo.
Likewise, I
um,
was the cross bearer, and I was very proud.
That's awesome. I love doing that. My favorite thing was to be the thurifer, but it's obviously very different with the Latin Rite. But back in the Novus Ordo days, I used to be a sacristan, so I would prepare all of the sacred vessels and stuff. And unfortunately, I didn't know at the time, but we weren't supposed to handle them. And I learned better, and I thought about it for a moment, maybe serving the Latin Mass, but in talking to the priest that we know, he mentioned that it would be better for younger kids, because it's a vocation. It's not a vocation
It's a
in
vocation, yeah.
itself, but it's a stepping stone of towards the vocation of priesthood, so that young men can understand what that is to serve
Well, you know,
at the altar.
my father always used to tell me that there are particular graces that you get with serving, being an altar boy, which I think is true. And yeah, what's nice about being an altar boy is that it's not just a way to get as close to the Blessed Sacrament as possible without handling it yourself, but it's also just pragmatic Catholicism. So it's like the best of both worlds. There's a grand spiritual, very religious element to it, and also it's like on the job training.
Hmm.
Because what I learned is, as we've learned, right, it's like priests don't actually need altar boys to celebrate the mass.
No.
But how else are you going to get young men formed and interested than exposing them really directly? And it's military precision, which obviously appeals to a lot of boys and a lot of men. So it's funny because I remember in the Novus Ordo, I stuck altar serving like you do kind of in high school years. But in Latin Mass, even though I don't think I'll ever be a server because there's a lot of work and it is a particular kind of training for the sake of vocation, I was like, man, if I had had my entire path set from the Latin Mass to begin with, who knows what that might have really awoken in me? Because I felt a little bit of the urge. I really love serving the Mass in the Novus Ordo, and I had very good priests that I served under. So just imagine that kind of that love and that base just being fulfilled all the more in the traditional rite.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a lot different, more reverent.
Yeah, our viewers haven't seen, but Rudy has a picture of him as a sacristan, and he
No,
looks like
please
he looks
no.
like a he looks like an you look like an Eastern Orthodox priest, or like or Byzantine Catholic, I should say.
There used to be this priest who, for whatever reason, would frequent the parish that I used to go to, and he was an Eastern Rite priest, and he had a wife, and they would sit in the pew at the 5 p.m. mass every Sunday, and he would tell me after mass. He would say, "I saw you up there. I saw your beard. You look the part. You should become an Eastern priest." And I always wondered why he was there. It was strange. But one day he told us that he would go to the Latin Rite for his wife because that's what she was used to.
Oh, so it's like
Um,
a little Well, compromise is kind of a strange word on that because it's the same religion, it's different
Different
rites.
rite.
But
Yeah.
that's kind of nice rather than being a supremacist. Like an actual supremacist, right? You've heard like the entire history of Byzantine and Latin Catholics, and the entire general history of Catholics and Orthodox is there's this underlying history of Latin supremacy or Greek supremacy and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure
Mhm.
you see it in history.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a funny thing because now I'm like, oh, all the rites are awesome. Like I've been to the Ukrainian Catholics, they do good. The Melkites are awesome. Like I'm a fraternity of St. Peter, like Latin rite. That's like the way to go. Like I get it, but Greek, like the Kyries in Greek, whatever. Like I'll take it. You know.
Yeah.
So so now that it's Easter, are you happy that are you happy that Lent is over? Are you kind of it's been kind of a wild Lent, I'm sure.
It has been a wild Lent. I'm not sure that I'm glad that it's over per se, because I'm the kind of guy who can slip back into his old way pretty easy. So
Yeah,
I need to
yeah.
keep that discipline, you know. And I am glad that it's Easter though, because the whole mood changes. Your whole interior demeanor changes because you're more joyful. You're thinking about the resurrection of
Yep.
Christ. You're thinking about what that means for us, and it's fun to see not to see, but to hear the organ again.
Yo, man,
Oh, I
I've
missed
missed
it.
the organ and I've missed the asparagus so much.
Oh, the asparagus is my favorite. It's my favorite.
I've actually been very very blessed because I went to there's an urgent care just a block away from me. So I walked over there during Holy Week and I was like, look, you got to swab me because I have an opportunity to live stream the mass at St. Vitus, and I don't want to pass it up. I got to be close to the action again, you know. So I got my results back. If I ever had it, I don't know about it because I am COVID-19 negative, baby. So on Good Friday, I got to go and live stream the mass, and I got to help Father do that for the rest of the Easter Triduum. And you know, on Good Friday, the Blessed Sacrament is brought back into the tabernacle, but there's that moment where it's in oftentimes like the side chapel or the secondary altar that in our case of our church is like pretty much behind the main altar.
The
And
altar of
so
repose.
yeah, altar of repose. Thank you. That's right. And so I went, and as I was getting set up for the live stream, our altar of repose is right there, and I was overwhelmed with how much I missed it, and how even though there's obviously great benefit and grace and truth in spiritual communion and conforming our wills to the best of the situation, there is nothing that compares to being in front of the Blessed Sacrament again. Like that was like it felt like there was like a missing link, you know, in my heart that just clicked again. The reason to be Catholic, standing or being right there in front of you. So I'm very, very happy that I got to participate, and hopefully will continue to participate throughout this whole crisis in people viewing the Mass in the best ways that they can. And also what's nice about that is Father told me that the analytics of the live stream from St. Vitus is in the thousands. So there are way more people watching the Mass than can actually fit inside our small little church, which is good because I mean, that means that proportionally there are a ton of people who are still hungry for the authentic Latin Mass and the regrowth of Orthodoxy even throughout this time.
That's fantastic. I wonder, maybe I can ask him, but I wonder what the numbers are specifically for the Mass of the Day in Los Angeles versus, I don't know, somewhere all over the world. Like in, where is it? Is it Strasbourg? No, it's not Strasbourg.
Strasbourg.
I don't know, wherever, because there's many FSSP affiliates that are streamed on that site. So I'm not sure, but it would be interesting to see if people are tuning in for St. Vitus specifically.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what we learned is from one of our good buddies, Chris Marino, who's in the chat right now. I think. Hello, how's it going, Chris? We learned, you know, he said that look, this time is also like has had an uptick in people tuning in, so to speak, to the traditional liturgy. And I think that's really true because, you know, everyone's starved for the kind of truth. And, you know, and again, some churches, generally speaking, it's mostly your main cathedral and some of like the bigger churches in your state or in your area that are able to have live stream capabilities relatively fast. Or a lot of people are kind of going with a lot of the big priest players on YouTube, I would say, because, you know, Bishop Barron has a stream, as well as Ascension Presents with Father Mike Schmitz has a stream. So, you know, there's a lot of, and EWTN and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different places to get the Mass. But yeah, for the Latin Mass, live Mass has been just an absolute bulwark. And I think a lot of people are hopefully really seeing what St. Vitus has to offer in terms of the traditional liturgy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a thing. I'm for one, I'm kind of happy that I shouldn't say I'm happy that Lent is over. It's been a wild Lent, and again, I think Easter does bring about that understanding of the fulfillment of Christ's resurrection that we right now especially really, really need. Like Jesus rising from the tomb demonstrates hope and winning in the end. And
He's vanquished death.
Past month, just absolutely vanquished. And these last couple months this last month, I should say, of quarantine has sometimes felt really, really bleak. And I think everyone's getting cagey. I'm getting cagey. Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, where is the light at the end of this tunnel?
Yeah.
And
especially when the goalposts are being moved, you know.
Yeah. Like, oh gosh, right? From Easter to May 1st to May 15th to September to 2021.
Our Archbishop was saying that, maybe we're going to reopen at this date.
Have we
so
been
far
pushed
nothing.
Back?
Nothing so far. So.
Did
he say April 19th or April 15th?
I thought everyone wanted April. I'd kill if it was April 15th. I can't take this anymore.
Maybe I'm throwing him under the bus unjustly, but the point is that I'm tired of this. I want to go to Mass. I want to be in front of Jesus.
Why can't, there are other parts of the country. So take Texas. Shout God bless Texas, because Texas's Governor Abbott's like, yeah, we're going to start opening up, like whatever. And so what's coming out of Texas in terms of the Catholic sphere is a lot of parishes are able to have essentially like a drive-in Mass, if you will. So people park your cars like you would at a drive-in movie theater, and the priest says Mass, and everybody is in their cars, but they're locked in via apps and streaming services and all that kind of stuff to what's going on at the altar. And I don't know if they receive communion or if it's spiritual communion, but I do know that that is happening in places. And I would kill for that.
Yeah, me too.
Just massacre.
Me too.
All in good time though, you know. This I think a lot of people are realizing, like, you know, the nice thing is that the numbers are going down, and yeah, you know, deaths are going to continue. It's never good when somebody dies, but things are becoming more stable, and I think as that's coupled with people getting more antsy, hopefully we will see that sort of desire to really return things back to normal, especially in regards to the mass.
So what did you do for Easter?
Okay, what did I do for Easter? Okay, so I went down to my fiance's family's house, which is in like greater Los Angeles South Central area, and we played Monopoly for the first time, like kind of as a unit like that. And I showed them Monopoly Pacheco rules, which is called Monopoly Ultra Capitalist Edition in my household, because what you do is like you play regular Monopoly, but there's a couple of different things. Number one is it's really about pushing negotiation and disagreement and argumentation, because I kind of like to argue sometimes, like a healthy argument.
Just sometimes.
Just sometimes a little bit. And so one of the rules is like, okay, well, you can trade properties, and you have to wait till your turn to initiate a trade. But what you can do is, as you're negotiating, one of the things you can do is grant immunity or not immunity on property. So I could be like, Rudy, I will give you my boardwalk for not Park Place. That'd be a garbage deal. I'll give you my boardwalk for my railroad, but I want immunity on your blues.
Listen, Jordan, that's exactly what you pulled on me the last time we played.
That's right.
Now you're telling me that's a garbage move.
Well, I mean, I stopped.
I'm on to you, Jordy. I'm on to you.
I was gonna say I will trade you Boardwalk for Park Place, but they're both the same color set, so it's a garbage move. I'm protecting you, is what I'm doing. But needless to say, I beat her family. I love them and I love her, but I massacred, and they were like, "Well, we can't play with immunity anymore." And I was like,
"You absolutely pillaged them. You ravished their country. You created a massive housing crisis."
That's right. I should mention before on the religious aspect, of course, that I helped in the English is hard. I participated in the live stream, or I helped in the live stream of the of Holy Saturday, and which was a vigil mass, which was the earliest vigil mass in my life because it began at like 1 o'clock or something. but the nature of live mass means that that we make sure that we don't step over other people. So if the seminary for the Fraternity of St. Peter is streaming at this time, if Our Lady of Guadalupe is streaming at this time, or another church, we just kind of fill up slots to make sure our mass can be seen all over. So I did that for Holy Saturday, and then of course I helped in the morning for the Easter Sunday live stream, which was fantastic, which was the best way to start the day again. And then I went and caused a bunch of family strife with my victory. So whatever. What did you do? Did you have a good Sunday? Did you have a good Easter Sunday, I should say?
Yeah, Easter Sunday was great. I spent that over at Ashley's house with her mom and her sisters. We had dinner, but we did the Easter Vigil the day before, and Ashley made this really awesome paschal candle. Gonna show it on stream.
Let's see it.
So it's a nice little candle that she made. So we were decorating our little TV stand, and put our icons out, and had our Easter candle, and participated in Mass, and it was wonderful. As soon as the lights came on in the church, and you could just hear that wonderful Jeff organ solo. I don't know what it's called, but maybe it's not an organ solo.
But
it was just like, it was like triumphant. It's like Jesus, like wow.
Yeah.
And that at that moment, I was just like so ecstatic. It was like, we're done with Lent.
And you know what's nice is, especially when it's done when you're there and it's done at night, because it's true. Like the entire point is Christus Resurrexit, that Jesus has triumphed, and the bells go crazy,
Wonderful.
and the organ goes crazy, and the lights go on, and it is. I would say that so the most profound moment of the Mass to me is, of course, the elevation, the consecration of the body and blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord. But then, but that moment, that moment when you realize that Easter is here, that the stone has been rolled away, and the church just explodes with joy and noise and power and thunder. Gotta be like one of the greatest impressions ever made on me as a Catholic is like, yep, this is how you know that Christ has come again, and will come again, and has defeated Satan, and that we are great or hopefully willing participants in the divine plan.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then afterwards, we had dinner.
Hey,
We went and picked up some food at this kebab place nearby. Fantastic kebab.
you guys in
Just-
Glendale for that? Kebabs everywhere.
It's great. Well, Glendale kebab is a cut above, let me tell you.
That's true. It makes a lot of sense. I'll
That's
tell you a
great.
really funny story thing. I never had kebabs until I came out here to Los Angeles. It kind of makes sense coming from Colorado, but that's
Yeah.
like the thing to do out here.
Yeah, everybody in Colorado eats Chipotle, right? Because that's
So yeah,
that's where Chipotle is from.
Chipotle has the mecca of Chipotle is near Denver University. That was when the first Chipotle started in the 90s, I think.
Back when it was good.
Back when you gotta beef with you gotta beef with Chipotle.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Would you rather? Oh really? You know what that's like? That's like how people talk about McDonald's, with their fries and their chicken nuggets.
Do you say Mick or Muck?
Mick.
Mick.
Because I'm a
Mick.
normal person.
Mac. For some reason, I can't say
Patty
McDonald's. McDonald's.
Well, that's what the Brits said. Brits go McDonald's. McDonald's.
McDonald's.
And you're like, no, you guys wrote the language, but no.
There's an Irish establishment called Supermax, and
Super mix.
yeah, it's that Super Mick, I guess.
I mean, that makes more sense, but they can't do that, I suppose.
Yeah.
So what is so now that it is still Eastertide.
Yep. For what, another 50 days?
I love that. I love how
days,
long that stretch is.
It's wonderful.
It's just so like what a time period for joy. This is how you know that things are getting better too, because like I don't know about you, but like I'm already like, thank God it's Easter. Like I could take this whole woo flu quarantine.
Have you been outside today? It's wonderful outside.
Okay, yeah, because there is a so not to make a point of privilege, but I do have a pool in the back of my little house that I share, and so yes, we were outside today, just kind of relaxing, and I haven't done that in a really long time, and I was like, wow, I forgot, like I needed this. Thank God I'm still alive post Lent, because this is about the right kind of way to return to form.
Sounds relaxing.
Relaxing out back, yeah, by the pool is kind of nice. So outside's beautiful, and that's why I'm saying that people are going to start getting cagey, because if it was like a couple weeks ago where it was all rainy and grim, that's one thing. But now that it's like the birds are chirping and the sun is shining, it's like, okay, time to get outside. Like I might, catch ill, and who knows, but I'll risk it.
Yeah, it certainly seems like we're looking at the light at the end of the tunnel now.
Yeah,
but I'm trying not to get too excited just yet, because I don't want to be disappointed. So while we still have this opportunity to be at home and suffer collectively as a church because we don't have access to the sacraments, we still have the opportunity to grow in a little grace there, a little bit of patience, grow in that virtue. So still keeping on, trying not to think about it too much, but I mean, I'm over this.
Our priest at St. Vitus, Father Fryer, posted something in our FSSP LA app recently that I thought was really nice. But he essentially just reminded us that this is a struggle for all of us, and we understand this from the whole Passion narrative. And you and I both separately with our fiancés watched Passion of the Christ recently. And
did you cry?
Oh man, this is the first year that I didn't weep openly, but I was just like, I felt so wretched. There's so many scenes where you're just like, because it's you, right? That I think about this in regards to St. Peter, because, in Matthew 16 is the first time when, is where Peter is bestowed as Pope and head of the church. And then a chapter later, Christ tells him, "Get behind me, Satan." And later we'll say, like, you're going to deny me 3 times. And Peter goes, Lord, I would rather die than deny you. So how can a man like that, who walked, talked, and ate with our Lord, who was given over to be the vicar of Christ for him, whose name was changed for the obvious reason of the honor, how does he betray him? And it's like, it's easy,
It is easy. It's a story that you and I and everybody who's Catholic has experienced before.
Yeah.
We say one day we're on fire and we say, no, I'm gonna die here. I'm gonna die on this hill. And then maybe the next day, as soon as the next day, you realize, oh, I'm a weak human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
I need those
it's
graces to help me out.
you need those graces, and it's so funny because, again, like, it's so crazy how these weren't, and this wasn't like a long time build up for some people. Obviously, for men like Judas, I think that it wasn't just like a switch thing. I think it was like a decay into despair, as far as kind of like the gospel narratives or the commentaries sort of go. Judas was a revolutionary, and he wanted to see the overthrow of the Romans. And Christ, he realized, wasn't one of the commentaries, I should say, because obviously this isn't in the scripture itself. But that the background is that what Christ was talking about with the kingdom and with the power of his Father wasn't temporal in that regard. And Judas gave way to despair, and now we know it. Woe to the man who betrays the Son of Man. It's better that he was never born. That whole story.
Mhm.
But for someone like Peter, like to realize that he's in especially they illustrate this so well in the movie, he's looking at the Lord, and the Lord is looking at him. And it's like, okay, here's a moment where you got to put your money into where your mouth is. And they're like, hey, I know this. You were with him. You were with Jesus. You were with the Nazarene. You were with the Galilean. And he's like, I don't know this man. And I think about that in regards to Christ saying, if you deny me in front of men, I will deny you in front of my Father, which is why Peter's later threefold repentance is so important. But man, it's like, that's not just like, oh, well, St. Peter and the rest of the apostles, they were just too weak, but I'm real strong. It's like, those were the guys who were the closest to Christ. So if they run away, how many times do we run away? So how many of those sins that Jesus carried on his cross are our sins? And that's what makes me feel wretched. And it's a good kind of wretchedness, because it makes the sweetness and the forgiveness and the joy of the gospel message for Easter all the more satisfying.
Especially when you think about the scourging at the pillar. And traditionally, people say that the church believes that suffering, that scourging, is for all of the sins of the flesh that were ever going to be committed. It's like, it's so severe,
Yeah.
But that movie is a masterpiece. Every year I watch that on Friday, and every year I have a hard time like bringing tears up, but when I watch that movie, they just flow like water. It's like turning on a faucet.
And for me, it's maybe it's for you too,
Wonderful.
but you notice how different moments from the Passion narrative grip you at different times. This whole year,
which one is it for you?
Okay, so
I know mine immediately. I know mine.
This year for me, I didn't realize this in past years, but the way that Satan is dressed and the way that he looks in Passion of the Christ is a direct mockery and mimicry of the Virgin Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a very particular picture of Madonna and Child that they've drawn inspiration from. But I think that's true, because obviously we know that Our Lady will crush the evil one's head in Revelations. So, but just watching, there was just a moment where, especially like, there's so many moments, right, that really gripped me. But there's a second where Christ falls, and the Virgin Mary remembers a time when he fell as a little boy. And one of the great meditations for us as Catholics is what the Holy Family's life was like before Jesus began his ministry. Jesus as a child, throughout into young adulthood and all that kind of stuff. And man, this was one of those moments where she runs over and they look at each other, and it was just like the love that we know that it was prophesied that our Virgin Mary's heart would feel like it was pierced with swords. And you see that they captured it so wonderfully, and it's so true. And I was like, man, like, how wretched is it that that this is what we've done to the one who's going to save us.
Mm-hmm.
So later when he goes, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. I'm like, all the time that's Christ's message to us at the hour of his death. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. How much more should we start doing to make it so that we lessen his suffering? It's incredible.
For me, it's the scene where he is crucified, and Longinus, right? He comes up.
So, yeah.
He comes up with the spear, and
Mm-hmm.
he hesitates.
Yeah.
And I think he realizes that scene. Just you can look into the mind of this man. He's like, doesn't want to be there anymore. He realizes what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
And then he pierces Christ's side, and blood and water come out, and he's just like baptized right then and there.
Yeah, and he just he wipes it and he falls immediately to his knees.
Oh, that scene kills me.
Yeah,
because I think about my past, and I think about how many times I've put Christ on the cross there,
mm-hmm.
and then and he's there, and he's given me another outlook in life.
Yeah,
so
oof.
that scene kills me. I was watching it with Ashley, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when you can share that raw emotion with your significant other.
Yeah.
And so that scene came on, I started bawling, man.
Yeah, I see that there are people in chat who are giving us their favorite scenes. Thanks for joining us, by the way. While I have it, please don't forget to like this video, especially as we're streaming here. That helps the algorithm. And go ahead and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We very much appreciate every single little bit that you guys do. We also appreciate the interaction, which I'll get to. Grace says, hey Grace, how's it going? She says, the bald-headed lady with the baby absolutely petrified me when watching it as a kid. Yeah, and there's a very particular Madonna and Child, which that is mocking, down to the way that Satan's portrayed looking at the blasphemous Christ child. So that always freaked me out. And now that I know a little bit more what's going on, I'm like, ooh. But the evil one hates Christ and just loathes Our Lady. In fact, there are theologians that speculate, or it's just speculate, but theologians who say that one of the reasons why Satan refused to serve is because he knew that his boss was going to be a creature who should be beneath him,
Mm-hmm.
but whom Christ has, who God is like, no, this will be queen of the angels, and he just want to do it.
Non serviam.
And then our boy Michael the Archangel goes, Mikael, and high fives God. Shane,
do you think
how's it going?
Do you think he said it as a question, like Mikael?
Yeah, I think he knew. I think it was pretty cheeky, I think and then he drew his sword and just started murking fools.
He has a flaming sword, by the way. That is really
what
cool.
It is? It's exactly. I think that's probably what did it. It's like that's what unlocked it. And what's funny is he's portrayed as a flaming sword, but we never know. Do we know who the angel who is set in charge of the Garden of Eden is?
Maybe it's not him with the flaming sword, because the angel who guards the entrance of the garden has the flaming sword. But I did see a woodcut illustration, kind of like the one behind me on this side.
Very nice.
Thank you. It's out of a missal, but it is Saint Michael with a flaming sword. So I don't know. Maybe there's more than one.
Shane, how's it going? He says, I like when our master is speaking Latin with the governor because I don't watch with subtitles and finally understand something. I can't tell if that was a humble brag, because A, that's him understanding Latin, which congratulations, by the way. This is one of the great, as one who loves church history and is trying to understand the Gospels also in the historical context, because I think that's really powerful for converts and for people really understanding the biblical narrative. Because honestly, the New Testament is just screaming in history. This is how you know it's true, because there are just examples, details, and understandings of things that you're just like, there's no way that people who are just making this up would put this in, because it doesn't make any sense. One of them, the questions I've always had is, how did Christ speak to Pilate? And I think that is the answer, that, of course, the master of the universe probably would have, addressed him in Latin. And it could stand to reason that Pilate, as governor of Judea, knew at least a little bit of Hebrew, or maybe a little bit of Aramaic.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not enough to be uber conversational, but who knows, But Pilate's a very interesting player in the whole of the passion narratives. Because I think Pilate is a great representative of a lot of us in a ways, because he's looking truth in the face and he says, "Quo est veritas?" What is truth?
I know a lot of people like that in my family and friends who
Yeah.
have Christ right in front of them, and they'll still ask, like, well, is that really the truth?
You know what that's a harken back to? It's when Satan appears in Genesis. It's not a long, lengthy theological debate. All he
No.
does is look at Eve and say, "Did God really tell you not to eat of the tree of good and evil?"
Yeah.
That's how it slips. And I see Pilate, and Pilate had a choice there, where it's like he could see the truth of his spirit and also the temporal, but Christ says, in order to save one's life, one must lose it. One must forego the world in order to gain the eternal life. And so what you see in the Passion and what you see in a movie like Risen, which I want to watch really, really soon again, because that movie is just a brilliant overview of taking what the situation in Palestine, first century, 33 AD was at the time, and as the Romans would have seen it, and going, you don't understand, the whole history of the world has just changed.
Mm-hmm.
And one of that is like, it's like there is a great amount of politics. We know that the Jewish revolt will result in the burning of Jerusalem in 70 AD,
Mm-hmm.
only 37 years later. So you can see all the tensions, you can see all the political plays and everything, but we have to understand that God supersedes all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just incredible. And I think that the actor who portrayed Pilate did a very, very good job at that. Finally, Mary Harrington, thank you so much for joining us. She says, Mary pressing her cheek to the floor stones, feeling her son in the dungeons below. Yeah, absolutely. There's a scene, for those who haven't seen, where the Virgin Mary it's right after Jesus has been led away from being accused in the temple. So right after Caiaphas has, ripped his clothes and said he blasphemes.
They kept him there. They kept him there overnight. It's I think it's called a cenacle. A cenacle. That's where they would keep the water.
Yeah.
Underground. Traditionally, I think that's what it was.
How the heck did you know that? That's awesome.
A little factoid. I don't remember where I got that from. But
hey, I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Traditionally, that's what is believed to be. It's like a water reservoir or something.
And so there's a shot where, like, she's going out. You can tell that her heart's just completely plummeted through the floor. She pauses. She goes over to the stones, and it's a beautiful connection between the two.
Mm-hmm.
The camera tracks down through the stones, and stops on Christ, who is shackled, and he's looking up, and you can tell they're looking at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Each other, yeah. Man, that if I could go back to any time in history, I would. I mean, I don't want to say I would love to have seen the crucifixion, because that's not quite what I mean.
Yeah, to be a looker on to that would be
just to see it all.
That would be very very interesting.
Do you know that Passion of the Christ was my first rated R film?
No, I didn't know that. I don't remember what my first rated R film was. Probably something not good.
Probably like I don't know. I can't even think. But there's a my church. It was actually, and it was brought on by my church. What happened is the movie was out in theaters, and my parish in Colorado, we all decided to go collectively. So we bought our movie tickets, went out to Parker, Colorado, and as a parish, we pretty much filled the whole theater and we watched it. And I was little, because I think the movie came out in
2004. 2004.
Yeah. So I was 9, 10.
I think I remembered my first.
Yeah, this happened to Taylor Marshall's stream earlier today. So I think that I don't think it's on our end, because I think you're wired in and my internet's been very good today. So I think that it is just YouTube. Maybe it's the inflow of traffic. Maybe it's just the fact that it's hard to manage all that data. But yeah, it looks like we are back. Thank you everybody for staying with us. It is good to still be here, honestly.
Sorry about that. Really, it just keeps happening. So,
Grace, I appreciate the Tangled reference, and I know that because I saw Tangled a month ago. So, or I shouldn't say that for the first time, but I saw it again a month ago. So you can't fool me. I actually expect that song to be at my wedding.
So we got about 10 minutes left here of our stream. see if anybody of the viewers have any questions.
Yes, if you are still with us and you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the feed. We will go ahead and reply. While that's populating, Rudy, I got to ask you, so going forward from Easter for these next whole parts of Eastertide, what are you hoping to kind of gain from I guess from Eastertide proper? We are now in the hope of the resurrected Christ.
That is
I know.
a good one.
It's a good one, isn't it?
That is a put on the spot question, but I hope to continue the disciplines that I've developed over Lent, in particular daily prayer. Prayer is incredibly important because prayer is our communication with God. And if we're not checking in, then we sort of lose touch of how God is speaking to us in our life. And so keeping that daily time set aside for God is really important for me, because now I don't have an excuse. I'm at home. Unfortunately, like, things with work have gone a little south. So now I'm home most of the time, and I don't have an excuse to say, oh, well, today I didn't pray the rosary, or I didn't do this today because, I was busy playing a video game or something, or watching TV or doing something like that. So that's a back.
We're gonna have to we'll do this in double time. Thanks so much for watching the Gotcha podcast. Go like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and the videos. All right.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much.
And there. Oh, no, there we go. All right. Sorry about these technical difficulties.
We really do apologize. We apologize for that.
I think YouTube should apologize to us.
It could be YouTube, or it could be me. I'm not sure.
I'm going to blame YouTube. I think YouTube should give us the same sort of money that Trump's going to give us. So.
Yeah, I would love my Trump bucks. I'd like to get those.
I know. Anthony got his. How come we can't get ours? Yeah. What gives?
All right. Well, we're this is the second time we're doing this, chat. So we apologize, but we'll hammer out the kinks in the next couple of days here. So we'll keep chugging at it, and we'll get it right next time. But,
we wish you all a very happy Eastertide. Christus Resurrexit in our lives, and hopefully in the life of the church. I cannot wait for the Eucharistic processions, for the church bells to ring, for everybody to get married and baptized and communed and all that stuff that has been waiting. But until then, this is a really great time for us to take our frustrations again and just keep offering them up to the Lord, because he hears the cry of his people. And this has been a really crazy time for all of us. But hopefully you're making the best of it. I'm going to follow what you've been doing, Rudy. I want to revitalize my spiritual life in prayer, and I'm about to buy a slew of a bunch of new religious books. If anyone has any recommendations, I am all ears.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you being here, and we'll catch you next time. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to drop them into the comment box, and make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if this is your first time. Hit the notification bell so that you're made aware when we're going to go live again, and follow us on Twitter @GladTradPodcast. You can also download all of our existing episodes that are not live, and also our last live episode, via our links below underneath in the description. You can download them where any good podcasts are provided. So Stitcher, you can download them on Spotify, you can go to Buzzsprout, anywhere you get your podcasts from.
Apple Podcasts, whatever, iHeartRadio, literally all the places. I've looked. It's like all the places. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. It's great. So keep praying for us. We really appreciate your prayers. We're praying for you as well. And God bless you, and Mary keep you. And